You get to see some really beautiful areas that you would not ever see. And we come across a waterfall. Wow, that's out here? Who knew? And you would never find these places unless you got out on a bike. Most people wouldn't walk that far.
My son, Matt, was involved in a mountain bike camp that he said, Dad, this is something you really should be doing. There's been a lot of what we call informal trails, trails that were built without official permissioning.
Oftentimes it's one or two. Do something to aggrieve the landowner.
NEMBA has been doing the last 5 years has been trying to legitimize all of those trails and get them approved by the area. So the two of us started riding something that NEMBA feels really strongly is appropriate for nearly all trails.
That's really how you lose trail access.
The environmental impact of the various trail users are all pretty similar, and shared use risk just makes a lot of sense. Well, Pioneer Valley is, as probably everybody watching this video knows, is a bunch of valleys that are created by the two big rivers. The Deerfield River and the Connecticut River are primarily where we're riding around. Steep banks, steep hillsides, nice flat valleys in between, makes for a great diverse terrain for riding. We've got areas that are mostly flat, like for instance the Montague Plains up in the northern part of the valley, Robinson State Park in the southern part of the valley, and then a whole bunch of places that are more mountainous, more rocky, talking about places like Wendell and the Greenfield Ridge, the Deerfield Ridge, Charlemont, the DAR State Forest, Holly State Forest, a whole bunch of places like that are on the hillsides surrounding the valley. The main east-west ridge that runs across about the middle of the valley, where Mount Tom and the Holyoke Range are, was the bottom extent of historic lake or prehistoric Lake Hitchcock, which created the whole valley where the Connecticut River rides through now. Trail access, in the valley we've been really lucky. There's been a lot of informal access that's been granted for a very, very long time. There's been a lot of what we call informal trails, trails that were built without official permissioning back 15, 20, 25 years ago. What NEMBA has been doing the last 5 years has been trying to legitimize all of those trails and get them approved by the various land agencies that own them, some successfully, some less successfully. I think our most recent success is the fact that we've got the Department of Conservation and Recreation to approve all of the trails that were in the Butte State Forest up in Holly. It's about a 30-mile network of single track that's been there for 25, 30 years and has been one of those wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of things for all of that time. DCR has finally given us approval to map and sign and officially have events on those trails.
I mean, even if you give permission, you can't sue them for, if you fall down and break your leg or whatever. That's not something that the landowner would be liable for. You could, if he charged you admission and set up the course and directed you here or there, there is liability attached to that. But for general rule, it's not that. But most landowners want to know at least some of the folks coming onto their land.
Trails are something that need work over time. Depending upon how they were built, the kind of trail they are, the amount of maintenance they need on an ongoing basis is really varied. And also the building of new trails, depending upon the kind of trail it's going to be, whether it's going to be a beginner trail or whether it's going to be an advanced trail. There's a totally different kind of construction techniques that are made, and with those various construction techniques, different levels of maintenance that are required on a year-to-year, decade-to-decade, century-to-century basis. Advanced trails tend to be less intrusive to the environment, and so therefore need way less maintenance on an ongoing basis, and they're way easier to build, but they're harder to ride. And on the other hand, green trails or easy trails take a lot more to build to make them more approachable by the beginner rider, so you're not having big scary drops and sharp rocks and logs and all that kind of stuff. So those things are all removed from the trail tread. And as that trail tread wears, then we have to continually go back and clip roots or fill in over roots or all those kind of things. And that kind of maintenance we do. We generally look at a riding destination on a once every couple of years basis, do an evaluation of where the trails are, and then schedule trail maintenance days. And trail maintenance days could be anything from one guy with a chainsaw going to pull down those trees that fell over the winter time, or it could be a crew of 10 or a dozen that are filling in over some roots that the water had washed out and eroded and have now become an obstacle to that trail being approachable by the less advanced riders.
It's great to be up here. We got a great day, a good crew, and we're building some nice sustainable benched single track. So if you're a new beginner, then you want to try to trail work. You want to try to find a trail school or work with people who've done it before, and you learn as you go, and it's great. Anytime I go anywhere and I ride on a trail that I know I had some part in, it's just an awesome feeling. And then sometimes at my local park where I'm building trails for the past 4 or 5 years, particularly lately because we finally got enough trail for people to enjoy, people stop, they say, "Oh, Paula, we love your trail." So, and I like the trails too, so it's fun.
But it's good. If you like being out in the woods, being out hiking and biking, this is what to do.
And make sure the back gets packed as much as possible, and really pack down where that treadway is going to be. And I would keep moving. I wouldn't dig this out too much more.
No, it just
and then the other side, kind of the same thing. You have a pretty good bench there, but it just needs to be a little further defined. Okay, and then move on. We got a lot to do today. It's a bench. It's on a side hill, and what this does is help the water continue its sheet flow down the hill, so we don't get water in the trail. Erosion is our #1 enemy for trails, and so also it makes it a fun ride. People love riding on bench trails, but mostly it's to manage the water and also to build the trail so it will last. You just go through and you rake some little path. Maybe it's good for 6 months, but it won't be good 2 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. And I'm of the opinion I like to build so it will last. You know, if you're gonna take all the time to get out here and do something, do it right. I don't think I ever had limo service to lunch on a trail fest. That's pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, well, write it down.
Oh, yeah, I do. I've had more injuries than you
He brought us down.
And, I know, you just meet a lot of people and you start doing it, and it can be a little bit of an obsession, particularly when you've got a trail to build, and you always want to keep one in line, because once you finish a trail, it's kind of a downer. You're like, oh, I'm done. I got to go do something else. So.
Yes, before rocks, always there.
trail maintenance is something that NEMBA generally, and PV NEMBA specifically, has always had, a big role in. Some of it formal, some of it informal. Certainly the large formal days, we'll have, a group of 10 or a dozen people show up and go out to a certain project and either replace a bridge, all kinds of things like that, to, clipping back the inevitable grown-in beech trees that kind of slap everybody in the face every year, because the beech trail grows 6 or 8 feet every year horizontally. So those kind of maintenance things are all different. Some are done with, as official days. Some are just done by guys going out and walking on the trails.
We're going to start the ride. A bunch of us are going to ride down. The other bunch is going to drive in a car, and what we're going to do is they're going to work from one end, we're going to work from the other. We'll meet in the middle. It will be a two-pronged attack. These are all existing trails. Okay, these are legacy trails and roads. So we are not, you would need permission to go in here and make new trails and create new paths. But these legacy paths and these legacy roads, only thing we're doing is just cleaning. So it'd be roughly akin to going out and sweeping your sidewalk or sweeping the street. That's all we're doing. We're not creating new trails or new routes. We're not cutting down trees or any of that sort of thing. We're just mainly maintaining, opening up for public use the trails that already exist. Well, generally like 2 or 3 times a year is what we like to do. We like to do it in the spring when there's no foliage to obscure the trail, but also in the fall we do a leaf and pick up all the summer blowdowns and all of the limbs and branches that may have come down during the summer storms and that kind of thing. So a couple, 3 times a year.
Shared use is something that NEMBA feels really strongly is appropriate for nearly all trails. The environmental impacts of the various trail users are all pretty similar, and shared use really just makes a lot of sense. A typical mountain biker is going to travel at roughly the same speed as a trail runner. And the impact is going to be very similar to a trail runner. Somebody who's moving at, 6 to 8 miles an hour versus 2 or 3 miles an hour where a hiker or walker would do. Those impacts are, taking some of the surface off. Occasionally they're compressing the surface tread. And so it depends basically on condition of the trails, time of year, how dry they are, how wet they are. All of those things are a bigger variable than the actual what is impacting that trail. So weather is a much bigger impact than who's on the trail or what they're doing on the trail.
If the trails are wet and muddy, stay off them. Stay off the single track, because what it does is it ruts it all up, then it dries hard, and it makes it virtually impossible for some people to ride it. It also, when you rut it up like that, it makes a channel where water can run. And once you get the water running, pretty soon the soil's gone. Once the soil's gone, all you're exposing is rocks and roots.
One of the things that NEMBA is most responsible for, I think, is getting people aware of what impact they can have at various different times of the year. Knowing that if you're riding in mud season, you're going to be really altering the the surface condition of the trail, whether you're leaving ruts or whether you're washing it out, those kind of things. And you know, NEMBA's role as spokesman and educator for the whole group of riders is I can't be overestimated.